Hi, I'm Selina from Annie's Bookstop of Worcester, and I'm here with Jason Cordova. And Jason has has two roles. Jason is an author, but he's also an editor, and he's done quite a bit of both, actually. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Jason?
Uh, my name's Jason Cordova. And, uh, as you said, I'm an author, editor. I do a little bit of everything. I started off as an author, had no interest in being an editor, but as time's gone on, I've slowly morphed into the role. So I'm now dual threat author, editor. From California originally, left to go to college, went to the Navy, moved to the South, even though I hate the heat, and I've been here since.
Okay. Um, Now, can you tell me a little bit about um, what you do? Can you just describe what you do as as
Well,
as an editor and as an author?
okay. As an editor, I basically put together anthologies. I did the Chicks and Tank Tops anthology that came out last month, or actually 2 months ago now. Um, I'm putting together another one with the help of Larry Correa for his Monster Hunter universe, and I'm doing a third one as well, in-house at Bain Books. Um, my daytime job is at Bain, but I'm officially not an editor there. I work in the mailroom. So if anybody says, "Oh, Jason's an editor at Bain," Jason's not an editor at Bain. Jason's just a mail clerk. And then my writing, I write everything from military science fiction, fantasy, horror, steam. I've written a steampunk novella. I pretty much write what anybody pays me to write. I try to keep my options open. Don't limit myself in one genre.
Great. How did you actually get into this business?
Which part? This is the three. I mean, the working at Bain, the being an editor, or being an author.
Uh, Actually, being an author.
Being an author. Okay, that one's actually a fun story. I was watching a Polish science fiction movie with a Japanese director on HBO, I think it was, or some cable network, I don't remember. And it was called Avalon. And it was a really cool concept where it had virtual reality. Gaming was like an underground thing, totally illegal, but they were virtual reality gaming in this world called Avalon. And it was cool concepts and everything, and it had some great visuals. But I was like, I can do that better. I can write that better, I bet. And then I ended up writing my first book, and then ever since then, it's kind of snowballed because I discovered I'm decent at it, and I enjoy doing
And how many books have you written now?
it. That's why I have the spreadsheet. I've 19 novels written, with 17, 16 published. The 17th comes out next Friday, actually.
Wonderful. And why don't you tell us a little bit about that novel?
Okay, so this is called The Misfits. It's collaborated with Kevin Ikenberry, and it's the immediate follow up of our book On a Cloudy Day, which came out at the end of January. And it's set in Mark Wandry and Chris Kennedy's Four Horsemen universe, which is about 80 books long now, with how many books have been published in this series. And it's fantastic, fantastic series for anybody who loves military science fiction, focused more on action adventure and characters than the hard science of things. Although there is hard science in there, it's not the focal point. And
Okay.
it's the continuing story of Sunshine, who's arguably one of my favorite characters I've ever written, as she's fighting against aliens.
Okay, so she's your favorite character in that series.
She's arguably my favorite character in that series, maybe even overall. I don't know. She showed up as a one-off character in an earlier book, and then she slowly morphed into the major character of my arc. So kind of fun.
Um, so so what draws you to this particular genre that you edit and that you write in?
Uh, Military science fiction has always been one of those. I can do this because I know the subject matter from my time in the military, and also it allows for a creative route that you can't find anywhere else. I mean, unless you go fantasy, which then you can make anything up as long as the rules stick the same, you're good. But you have to maintain the physics and everything in this, and like if a spaceship is rocketing through space, do you have any way to compensate for that thrust being pushing your characters back, or do you have it sectioned where the floor is actually the wall and your thrust is giving you artificial gravity? It's science, it's fun, and you get to do crazy creative things with it. I don't think thrust is the right word, but yeah, it is. Yeah.
Okay. And what do you think draws readers to these kinds of books?
The adventure, the story, the characters, the plot. It's everybody's a little bit different, and I like to think is they come for the whole. They're looking for the whole package where they can have the action, adventure, the romance, the dialogue, the character development with this massive sprawling setting. So
Okay.
I like to think that's what they're looking for.
Okay. And so you said you were writing in a universe that was already created for you. So you didn't really you didn't have to create the world.
No.
But what was the inspiration for the story that you wrote?
Um, I was for the very first because I'm 6 books in now in the series for this universe, and nobody had written there were a lot of mercenary companies, which pretty much the whole premise is humanity has first contact. The alien galactic union discovers we like to fight. We're pretty good at it too. And they hire us as the 37th mercenary race. Out of the thousands and thousands of aliens that are out in the galaxy, only 36 are willing to fight for money. We're number 37.
Ah,
And it was a really cool concept. And I was like, okay, well, all these different militaries around the world are sending up mercenary units and contracts. And I realized we had no African mercenary companies. And I'm like, I've been in Africa. I've been stationed in Africa. I know very well the types of units that would go up in there. But what if we had an idealist, someone who actually had the funding to take a real mercenary company into space to fight the aliens and make money for the people of his homeland? So that's how the Kakata Corps, based out of Liberia, was created. And I just ran it from there. And Chris Kennedy and Mark Wandry both enjoyed the story, encouraged me to write more of them. And I was like, well, I really can't. I'm limited with what I did in the first book. And he's like, well, what about this character? She lived. And I was, well, okay, yeah. And just kind of went from there.
mm-hmm. So did you have to do any research when you were writing this book?
Ooh. Yeah.
I
uh,
thought so.
for Sons of the Lion, I had to do a deep dive into Liberia. And I was fortunate at the time, I was working in a group home for troubled youths and potentially, what's the word? At risk youth. There we go. For troubled and at risk youth. And a lot of them were from Liberia. And one or two of them had actually been real life slaves in Africa. And I got to work with them, and they shared a lot of their experiences over there. So I was fortunate with their help that I was able to build a very realistic viewpoint of what it would be like. And so that was a little bit haunting as well, because I wasn't prepared for that level of exposition that the boys were willing to share.
Oh, so they actually are doing slave work there.
Well, not in Liberia. The two kids who had been slaves were actually from I think Chad,
Wow.
and they've been rescued. So okay, this is a really kind of a cool story, but not really cool. But a Christian missionary group hired mercenaries to go in and rescue the children that were in slavery on Lake Victoria, I think, in Central Africa. And they pulled out about 70 kids. And it was really, nobody talks about this stuff, but it goes on all the time. And it was just such a cool story to hear about, like Christian missionaries are hiring mercenaries to go rescue children. That's just I don't need to write a book. That's real life.
That is amazing. I mean, you never hear about that kind of thing.
Oh, and so when I was doing the research for Sons of the Lion, I was like, well, what's the how do I put that realism in it? So I just picked the boys' brains, and they I don't think they realized that they shared as much as they did until after when I said, okay, well, here's the book. Is it okay if I publish this? And a couple of them read it. Not many. Most of them aren't readers. They don't. Well, they can read, but they're not science fiction readers. And they were like, yeah, that's okay. Doesn't bother me. I was like, okay, cool. We're gonna go with that.
Wow. That's quite a story.
Like it started off as a research project that dived into, I think, six different boys were the ones who were the primary source for the stories of what happened in Liberia, Chad. What was the other one? Ghana, I think. There was a boy from Ghana.
And where did you meet them?
They're in Virginia, at the Boys Home of Virginia. I used to work there.
Wow. And that's wow, interesting. Um, so what was the biggest challenge that you had in writing and putting out the book?
Ooh. A lot of it was self doubt. I, I I was worried the story would be hitting too close for some people. A lot of people don't like to think that this is going on today. So to talk about it in a science fiction setting and being, the California kid who grew up on a boogie board and surfboard off Long Beach, and not Long Beach, Newport Beach, but to tackle an issue like that, it was a little nerve wracking because I knew people would get upset. I knew there might be some what's the word, controversy, and at the end, I was like, you know what, the story needs to be told. It deserves to be told.
Hmm. Wow. But then again, it's a science fiction book.
Well, all
So
science fiction is based on some reality.
that is true. That is true.
All books are all fictions based on some story of reality, where we draw our inspirations from, everything like that.
Very true. Very true. Um, so interesting. So what else can we expect from you in the near future as far as writing goes?
Okay, so the Misfits, like I said, with Kevin Ikenberry on March the 10th. That's going to be the last book of my arc in the mainline Four Horsemen series for a while. After that, Monster Hunter Memoirs Fever with Larry Correia will come out in October, and that's going to be from Baen Books. Very excited about that book. I wrote it. We wrote it about 2 years ago now, and it's been kind of sitting there waiting for us to get turned the final edition in, and we've been slacking. And then I think, do I have one more book coming out this year? Because I've already had two books come out this year, and I'm wondering if that's a third. I think that's it for this year for novels, and I've got short stories coming out. It feels like all the time. I don't even keep track of them as much anymore because I just write for anybody who wants a short story for an anthology.
Wow. So tell me about the anthologies that you're editing.
Okay, well, as you know, we've done Chicks and Tank Tops from
Yep.
Bang Books, came out last or January. The next one is going to be co-elaborated with Larry Correia, and that's going to be in Monster Hunter Files #2, set in his Monster Hunter universe, which is going to be a lot of fun. He's got some big names he wants to pull in, and I'm super excited that he invited me along for the ride. And then I've got another anthology I'm doing for Baen that I literally was told I'm doing it last week. So I've got a tentative title for it, which is A Symphony of Chaos, but that's about it right now. I'm still working on building it and getting everybody on board. I've got everybody I want. I would like one more person. I'm waiting for them to say yes.
Great.
And then I can
Wonderful.
announce that once I get the contracts in.
So now I have questions for you about being a writer. I'm talking about being a writer, not an editor.
Okay.
Um, but when did you start editing as opposed to writing?
Uh, when did I do Chicks? Chicks was the first time I ever tried to edit anything. I'd edit my own stuff and then I'd give it to my first readers and they would edit, send it back and say, hey, you went into passive voice a little too much here. You need to fix that. Stuff like that. But when I first got the idea for Chicks and Tank Tops, which had a completely different title at the time, I was joking around as one is to do. And Tony Weisskopf said, why don't you go ahead and pitch that to me? I thought she was kidding. She was not. And I wasn't going to pitch it though without having Esther Friesner's permission. So, because it was her series, the Chicks series is hers. And
Right.
I really wanted her on one permission, two on board with it. So I wanted her to also contribute a story. And she did, which is a hilarious story called Tread Softly. But that was my first editing job, I guess you would say. And I enjoyed it. I thought it would be a lot more work than it was. I've heard horror stories from other anthology collector editors who said they would never do it again, and I enjoyed it. It was an easy process. Everybody was professional. They all turned the stories in on time, and we met our deadline. We came in under budget. I mean, it was like easy. You know, I guess it's like that first child, where the first child's so well behaved, you're kind of tricked into having a second. So we'll see how the second one goes.
Okay. All right. Now, the rest of the questions I'm going to ask you are about being a writer, not an editor. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So, what is your favorite part about being a writer and on the whole writing and publishing process?
Just the creativity I'm allowed. I can do anything in my universes. I can have faster than light travel. I can create a magical world where uh, kids with disabilities are magic. They control certain elements of magic because that's their disability because people view it differently. I can do alternate history where what would have happened if Mexico had fought off France much earlier in their formation. It just in anything that comes to mind, you can write, and that's very alluring as someone whose creativity streak is a mile wide.
Okay. And what do you consider the most challenging part of the writing process? And how do you overcome that?
I tend to write in three acts. I'll have the opening act, the setup, and the finish, the third act. And I've always found that the second act is the hardest to do because I can start a story great and then oh, my cat's coming. I'm sorry. Hi, yes. What do you? I'm sorry. What do you want? I'm in the middle of something. Can you come back later, please? Okay. No, no, they don't want it. Well, they do want to see you, but whatever. Sorry. He's very vocal. That's why I was like, are you going to start me out? 5 minutes, maybe 10. Okay, you can sleep there. Okay. Sorry. What was the question? He's totally derailed my thought. I'm sorry.
It's challenging part of the writing process.
Okay. Right. The second part of the book, whereas the meat and potatoes part of the book is very difficult for me sometimes. I like the creativity, but once the story gets going, it's like, okay, I've got to set it up for the finish, but I don't want it to be boring. And that's so I'm like, I have the false ending, the false start, the red herring thrown in, and just that middle part, which is usually from about 40,000 words to 70,000 words into the book. That 30,000 word window, I have the hardest time finishing. Once I hit that 70,000 word and I can see the finish, I'm golden. I'm golden.
Okay. Um, what has been your favorite adventure during your writing career?
Oh, adventure. Getting to meet all the other authors out there. They've been nothing but supportive since I started this journey, and it's just amazing how a lot of people think, oh, I'm a new author. I'm not going to make it because no one's going to help me because they're going to think I'm stealing their lunch money. And that's not how publishing works really. And so it's just having the support from every author out there who I say, hey, I'm working on this. They're like, great, awesome. Hope it does well. Let's do a good job. Write a good story. And sometimes they'll even say, hey, look, to their fans, hey, there's this new guy. Love his book. You might want to check it out. And so I try to pay that forward as well when there's a new author out who's got a new book, like Nick Steverson. I'll be like, hey, this guy's got a great book. You should read it.
Okay. So what
Sorry,
is
my
the
cat is bothering.
well, that was one of my questions for you, actually. Um, you can show us your cat if you would like.
You want up here? You can come up if you want. Up or down? Chewing on my chair is not an option. Okay, you're weird. Whatever.
One of my questions is that writers often have furry or feathered or otherwise non-human companions to either, to help them with their work. And did you have any? And yes, you do.
Yeah.
And do they help or hinder you with your work?
Well, come here. So this guy right here has been with me for every book I've ever written, except for the first one. And he is a very old cat who is a lap cat. And are you gonna? Oh, don't drool. Ugh. And he's been with me for the whole process of the writing. And then we have another one as well, but he's hiding. He doesn't ever help. This one though, I have pictures of him sleeping on my arm while I'm trying to type. So I'm like typing like this with my right hand while he's just passed out on my arm. So he's been a part of the writing process the whole way. Like, dude, oh man, okay. This is why you don't get up here very much. He drooled all over me. Oh man. He's old. I think he's 14 now. Got him from the pound, and he's been my buddy ever since.
He's gorgeous. Okay.
And now he's drooling. That's so close, dude.
So I guess my question was, what is the greatest lesson that you've learned in your writing career?
Oh boy, don't get discouraged. Yeah, I mean, not everybody's going to enjoy your books. You don't read the reviews. Don't read the negative reviews. You can read the positives and make yourself feel a little better if you're doubting your abilities, but don't read the reviews. Don't engage the reviewers. Just stay positive. Keep chugging along. You're gonna get better. Strive to get better. Always try to become a better author.
Okay. And is that the one piece of advice that you would offer to, to other writers? Or do you have
So
any
that
other?
and read the rules for submissions. If you're submitting to a publishing house and they do nature documentaries, don't send them your military science fiction story. Just follow the rules, read the instructions. Even agents have instructions they want you to follow nowadays, which it's fair because it narrows down the pool. If you can follow instructions, it means you might be able to put together a story as well.
Okay. Are there any groups, clubs, or organizations that you'd recommend to other writers that might have helped you in your career?
Uh, MySpace is dead now, so that's how long I've been writing.
Yeah.
But there's a group on Facebook called the Writer Dojo, and it's run by Steve Diamond and Larry Correa. Well, it's not run by it. The group is formed off of their podcast, and it has tons of writing tips, creative advice, editorial advice, everything you can need as a new author to get you started on and steer you the right direction. There's tons of professionals in there. There's best-selling indie authors. There's New York Times best-selling authors, editors, publishing house owners. They're all part of this group, and they're offering any kind of professional advice you have. If you think something's sketchy, like, I have a question. I don't know if this is a legit thing or not. You can ask it in the group, and somebody will know.
Is this a Facebook group or
It's Facebook group. I
group?
don't have a link, unfortunately, but it's a very handy group, and I've watched new authors come from literally never writing anything to having a short story accepted, and now they're going to be in an anthology coming out soon. So it's fun to watch, and it's a helpful group. Very very beneficial for any new author.
Great. Thank you. Now I have questions about you as a person.
Okay.
What's one thing that most people don't realize about you?
Uh, I grew up in the state group home system. I did not live with a family from the age of 4 until I got married.
Wow.
I
Ex
had a foster dad briefly when I was a teenager, but that was only for like 3 years. But for the most part, from the age of 4 until I was emancipated at 18, I grew up in the system.
wow. Interesting. And you made it out okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to down it on. I came out all right.
Yeah, you
I have a
did.
really, really horrible sense of humor. So.
Okay. Next question. What question do you wish interviewers would ask you? And what would the answer be?
Oh boy. I don't know. Hmm. Coffee. I love coffee. And nobody ever asked me what kind of coffee.
What kind of
And I'm pretty
coffee do you?
open about my coffee addiction. Right now I'm cheap. I'm just drinking Folgers, but usually I prefer like a Guatemalan dark roast. Ugh,
Ooh, that
sorry,
sounds good.
I have a severe coffee addiction, and it's not healthy, but
Okay. So what is or are your passions when you're not writing? And how do you make time to for your non-writing hobbies and things that you love?
oh boy. You got to make time or you'll burn out. I usually pick 1 day a week or 2 days a week, depending. I like to paint miniatures, tabletop miniatures.
Hmm.
I really enjoy painting those. I don't game as much. I just prefer the painting. I'm not very good at it, but I enjoy it. So I collect books. If you saw my office, everybody's like, "That's a lot of books." I'm like, this is like a third of what I pull out. Most of it's still in storage. I love to read, of course. I love reading history books too. A lot of people they say, "So what's your favorite history book?" And I said, honestly, George Martin's Fire and Blood. Yeah, it's a fictional book. It's a fictional history book, but it's a really well constructed history book. And I wish he would focus more on history stuff than actually writing novels because I enjoyed it better than I enjoyed the A Song of Ice and Fire, which is horrible. And I'm probably going to be lambasted by everybody for that, but whatever. I'm a history nerd. I love that stuff.
All right. So what does your writing space look like? And what do you need to have around you when you're writing or editing?
Really, I need this is a psychological thing. I need to have my back to a wall
Hmm.
when I write. Other than that, I just need a flat surface and my keyboard. That's pretty much it. I can't if I have got my back to a door, I feel a little edgy. I don't know why. It just always felt that way. So I constructed my desk. I've got a work desk here. Was my gaming computer is this one, and then I've got my desk. Then I have another desk coming out here, and my back to the wall. So I'm in a nice little cubby space. And then I've
Hmm.
got a window right there, which I can look outside. And sometimes I see deer, sometimes I see nothing. Like right now, there's nothing out there.
Hmm. Okay. And well, you said one of the things that you needed to have with you was coffee.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Do you uh do you need to have any other snacks or anything else or other drinks?
No,
Okay.
I usually don't even eat until I'm done writing for the day.
Ah, okay. And what about when you're writing or editing, do you prefer music or silence? And if it's music, what kind?
Okay, so a funny story. When I edit, I need silence because I'm reading the words out loud to hear them and how they sound. When I'm writing, it depends. If I'm using Dragon Speech, I can't have any music because I don't want Dragon Speech picking up the song lyrics. When I'm writing, I have a playlist that's about 23 hours long, and I just hit shuffle and let it go. A lot of 80s, 70s, 60s, 90s rock. I don't really care. It's just background noise. However, there's one song that I have to play when I'm having a battle scene, and it's by Tori Amos, and it's called Winter.
Hmm.
And it's a very beautiful, peaceful song. But for some reason, I get so enraged when I listen to it that I write these amazing battle scenes. And afterwards, I'm like, where did that come from? It's a beautiful song. I
Wow.
don't understand it. And it to this day it baffles me. I don't understand why that song makes me write some of the most horrific battle scenes ever. I don't know.
Well, at least it's something that, you know, that prompts you to do it.
I feel horrible. It's a beautiful song. I feel like what kind of human being am I? This is horrific. She's
Maybe
singing about the
somewhere in the
relationship of her father with her kid, and then her relationship with her kids, and I'm sitting here like kill everything. I don't,
wow. Maybe it brings you back some kind of memory or whatever, or
I don't know. I don't know. I
interesting.
can't explain it.
Wow.
I feel like a bad person now.
No, no, I think it's if it gives you if it gives you a good um writing what's the word? I can't think of the word. If it gives you some incentive,
Inspiration. There we go. Yeah.
I think that's great. That's
Yeah.
great.
I still feel bad.
Don't don't. I think it's great though. Okay. Now, I have two more questions. My last two questions for you. One is where can people find your work? And aside from Annie's Bookstop of Worcester, and I always have to give a plug for Annie's in all of the videos. You can get you can get Jason's books at Annie's if you call us um, at 508-796-5613. And if we don't have it, we can order it. Um, and you could also send us email at orders@anniesbooksworcester.com. And where else can people get your books?
For the books I've edited, which is right now just chicks and tank tops, anywhere Baen books are sold, be it on their website, email, Annie's. I'm pretty sure you guys had one copy at least.
Probably.
Yeah. Barnes and Noble, Amazon. For all my other stuff, typically Amazon or Barnes and Noble online stores. Sometimes at conventions, I'll have extra copies I can sell. That doesn't happen as often as it used to, just because I need to order more. My stock's getting low. But yeah, and I will sign any book they bring. If you give me a John Ringo book, say, "Can I have your autograph?" Yeah, sure. I'll just forge John Ringo's name. But like, this is not John Ringo. I don't care. I'll sign anything. Napkins. I've done that before. Badge. I signed an iPhone case once. That was cool.
Signed, I'm sorry, you signed a what?
An iPhone case.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. That was a first. I kind of felt important after that. I was like, huh, I'm actually might be an author, a real author. Wow.
I remember once at one convention, I had people sign my crutch. I had crutches. Somebody.
That's where I know you from. No, wait, no, no, no. I've never done a Northeast Con. That's right. I remember
Okay,
signing.
my
Sorry.
last question is how can we follow your work and share your awesomeness?
Oh boy. So I'm on Twitter, Warp Cordova. It's I share a lot of memes. It's more for humor, and I sometimes will self promote a little bit, but I have no eye-opening view of humanity and civility on there. I just post pictures and do stupid stuff on there. It's my website, jasoncordova.com, is pretty much where you can find all my stuff, links to everything I've ever written. The free story page, which I don't make you sign up for a newsletter or anything, it's there for anybody who wants to read the free short story. And also updates, appearances, anything of that sort, you can find on my website. And I don't have an author page on Facebook or anything like that. So it's pretty much Twitter and my website that I steer people to.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Jason.
Mhm.
This was great. This was a lot of fun. And if you do ever get to Annie's, we're not, well, I guess we are pretty far away from you. Uh,
I've driven further.
yeah. So you definitely would be welcome to come and do book signing. Um, so anyway, thank you very much, Jason Cordova, and we will be talking to you.
Yes.
Thanks.